Welcome.
Welcome to the Everything Podcast, Season 3, Episode 38, recorded on the 28th of January 2024, released on the 7th of February 2024. This episode of the Everything Podcast will contain spoilers from What If, Season 2, Episode 1. So yes, that's what I'm covering in this episode, What If Season 2, Episode 1. So I'll be covering all 9 episodes across the next 9 days, which is why there's not going to be any Neighbours reviews for about a week and a half. But yes, so that's what's coming up in this episode. The title of Season 2, Episode 1 of What If is What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps? So yes, here's my review for that episode, but before I get into spoiler territory, here is my spoiler-free thoughts. I love the new title sequence, which has been slightly altered from the Season 1 title sequence, and I enjoyed the scenes between Nebula, Korg and Howard the Duck. Final spoiler warning now. If you have watched the episode, obviously you're going to know what's happened. If you haven't and would like to watch it, go watch it on Disney+. And if you haven't watched it and don't mind spoilers, then feel free to continue watching. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. We have the Disney Plus original intro, the Marvel Studios intro, and Nebula narrates the opening scene. This scene features the death of Yondu. Nebula is insulted. Nebula puts the person who insulted her in his place. Then we have the What If intro. The Watcher explains who this Nebula is. Nebula continues where the Watcher leaves off. Nebula is recruited as a member of the Nova Corps. Xandar, I think. Xandar? We're going to go Xandar because that's how I've written it. Which is the planet this episode is set on. Is locked behind a shield for 50 years. Nebula recovers some of her memories with Yondu. Nebula narrowly avoids being shot by Yondu's arrow. Nebula finds a holographic map inside Yondu's arrow. Nebula gets a private message from her boss. Nebula explains her relationship with Yondu to her boss. Nebula accepts a secret mission from her boss. What are we up to? Yeah. Nebula enters a nightclub. Groot is playing a casino game. Drax is playing a match 3 machine, which he loses at and destroys. Nebula talks to Korg about finding a certain individual. This individual is Howard the Duck. Nebula finds Howard. Nebula puts Yondu's arrow in one of Howard's cards. Howard realizes that Yondu is dead. Nebula shows Howard the holographic map hidden inside Yondu's arrow. Korg knows what the map is. Howard is surprised at Korg's knowledge of the map. Nebula narrates during several parts of the episode. Nebula sets the prisoner free. Nebula and the prisoner attempt to escape from prison. Nebula and the prisoner are surrounded by guns. Nebula sets other prisoners free to allow her and the prisoner time to escape. Nebula and the prisoner manage to successfully escape. Nebula outsmarts the prisoner. Nebula and the prisoner enter a security facility. Nebula and the prisoner are submerged underwater. They manage to swim to the machine they are looking for. Nebula warns the prisoner. Nebula attaches herself to the machine. Nebula is double-crossed by the prisoner. The prisoner tells Nebula that they have been working with Ronan. Nebula avoids several near-death experiences. Nebula finds out that her boss has also double-crossed her. Nebula works out her boss's plan. Nebula's boss has struck a deal with Ronan. Nebula is attacked by several tasers. Nebula's attackers believe she is dead. Nebula is actually alive. Nebula returns to the nightclub. Nebula's help from Groot, Korg and Howard to bring her back to full strength. Howard reveals his arsenal of weapons. Nebula's former boss starts to open the shield. Korg, Nebula, Howard and Groot arrive to stop her. The shield starts to close again. Nebula double-crossed her former boss before her former boss double-crossed her. Nebula's attackers are destroyed by Korg. Nebula fights with her former boss inside a spaceship. Nebula's former boss causes her own demise. The Watcher finishes the episode with more narration. The final scene of the episode is of Nebula and Howard recounting the events of the episode, and that's my review for What If Season 2 Episode 1. So like I said at the start of this episode, I will be doing the next 8 episodes of the podcast will be What If Season 2 Episode 2 to Episode 9. Episode 9 is the finale. So yes, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the episode, if you watched it. If you didn't, let me know your thought or review. As I said, you can do both those things in the comments below. Remember, you can also like and subscribe, and that's it for the Everything Podcast Season 3 Episode 38. Goodbye.